Welcome everybody to From Configuration to Refrigeration, Vaccine Management 101. Just a quick reminder, if you've got a question during the presentation, please come up to the mic and ask the question into the mic so that... Can you hear me now? If you've got a question during the presentation, please come up to this mic and use the mic so that our virtual attendees can hear your question. I think that's it, and I'll turn it over to the speakers.
Yeah, great. One last housekeeping check. Make sure that if you have not, please check in with Grace scanning your QR code, because we are raffling a vaccine scanner at the end of the presentation, and we just want to make sure that everybody has their name up there so everyone can get a shot. Yes, yes, thank you for that. Yes. Well, thank you for coming, everybody. This is From Configuration to Refrigeration, Vaccine Management 101. Again, I will plug our second course, which is the 201 course, for some more detail. But we just want to go over the basics here for you all today. So basically, our goals, we just want to have you guys know the basics of learning how to get a vaccine into the software, how to update those in your protocols and your billing configuration, and then learn how to report on vaccines, and then also utilizing a scanner. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is getting these into the system in the procedure table in the practice management side of the house. This is something that you guys can do, and again, I will also state, if you have any questions on this process while you're in the middle of adding something new to your system, please don't hesitate to call us or email, and we can help walk you through that. But the first step for getting all of this into your system is getting it into the procedure table in practice management. One thing to note with this is we do have an NDC code field here. That is very important that you actually fill that code in. This NDC code is what we send out in billing if payers require that NDC. That's what it's referring to. So please make sure that you... Depends on the payer, and that's a really big, that's a great question, is which NDC code do you use? The one that's on the vial or the one on the box? Beats us. We've had some instances where we have seen that it is the payers really want vial, or they'll switch over and they say, oh, we just want the box. Unfortunately, you would think it'd be really easy just to use the same NDC code for both, but they don't. So as far as that, it really is, it can be payer specific or state specific for what requirements they have. Generally, I feel like we have clients use the box. It's just easier during the process of getting that information in there, but it may end up being something that is actually on the vial. So pointing out with the NDC code, the reason why I bring this up is that this is what's going out in billing. You'll see later on in the vaccine inventory, there is a field for NDC that can get populated. While that's good for tracking and making sure that you're looking what you have in your fridge, this is what we actually send out in the back end for billing. So a note for this, if you have a vaccine that is the same vaccine type, you have a new MMR that has a new NDC code, for instance, when you need to update this field, it's best to actually retire this entry so all those previous vaccines that went out with that NDC code don't have it switched when they didn't actually have that. So when you start giving that new stock, you want to clone it and create a new entry and just update the NDC code to make sure that that matches. As far as the next steps for this, generally when you call or you email us, we ask a few questions. One, the previous step. Has it been added to TED 6? Has that new entry been created? We may ask you, what is the CVX code? There generally is CPT to CVX, but we like to verify with you if you know that on hand. And then, how is this going to appear on your vaccine form? So if you're looking, or your vaccine record form, excuse me, depending on the type of vaccination, let's say like pneumococcal, for example, if you wanted to have an individual line for 13 and 23, you have different levels of that. If you want those to be independent so that those are tracked differently, we need to know that, because when we go into the back end of your system and add that to your vaccine record, we want to make sure that we're putting that in accurately, because we just have to tie a few things into the background. One thing to note as well, there is a TED table too. We kindly ask you not to touch that. It is something that you have access to, but a thing with that table is if those items get renamed or get edited in a way, that can break your vaccine record so it doesn't actually print anymore. So that is something that we only ask if you want to add something in. We're very grateful if you do, but only do it in TED Table 6 and don't do it in TED Table 2. The next step for this is you've added it in. The vaccine is in your system in the procedure table. It's all set up. How do you get that linked up to procedures? Or linked up to orders, excuse me. So going into your billing configuration, you have your order mapping. You'll go through and you will find the order type that you want. Make sure that when you're setting this up, we pretty usually will recommend that you have just that Z23 there. You're only going to have one of those diagnosis codes go out when you're actually doing the billing, but it's easiest just to have a standard setup that every vaccine has it. You don't have to select, of course, every different diagnosis code, but it's nice to be there so when you do make that order, that just goes in and is all set. As far as the billing procedures, having this in here, make sure that depending on the vaccine that you're giving, these components are really important to get in here ahead of time and make sure that it's set up for billing. We've seen that when new vaccines get added, especially multi-component vaccines, that this can get missed. This is really important for billing to make sure that you have your 90460s and your 90471s, et cetera, and then doing the pre-selection. Generally, most of our clients we found are doing this with counseling, so we recommend just having the 90460 and the 61s to be selected by default. And then having these not be pre-selected on the billing screen, but available. So they will come up there. They're just going to be unselected when you're making that ready for billing. And so if you did administer the vaccine without counseling, then you can select those. I'm going to pass this along to Jen.
All right, can everybody hear me? Awesome. All right, so after you set up the billing, the next step is you have the ability to add vaccines to your protocols. So by default, they can be part of your well visits, for example, or if you have like a nurse-only visit and you want to have a selection of available vaccines to be able to order when you're charting that visit. You can set those up in the configuration piece here so that you're not looking for those vaccines in the drop-down, you're not trying to type in the name, you're not trying to use the drop-down arrow. They are there by default. So a lot of you may have those already. And then the final point here is to anchor those immunizations. So once we get to the next slide, I'll show you the protocol configuration. Everybody jumped back there, sorry. Once you get to the protocol configuration piece, you can anchor that component. So when you're in the chart, you can easily navigate to the immunization component and see where those immunizations live and click the order button. All right, so here's a screenshot of a 12-month well visit in the protocol configuration tool. Some of you may not go in there because you don't have access, and that's fine. This is how the protocols are built and how all the different components are organized. And so we have the immunization component here, and the first arrow there is pointing to the anchor yes or no, and that's going to determine whether it's going to show as a button on the left side of your screen in the visit. So you can click on that immunization section and get right there. And here we've got 3 vaccines configured by default for the 12-month visit. So you can go through your well visits and put in the appropriate vaccines that you'll be giving for that age. And when you actually chart that visit, you can easily click on the order button, and you don't have to search for them, like I said before. I don't think I have actual screenshot of that, but I think all of you know on that screen when you're charting a visit and you click on the order button, that's there automatically when you configure those. All right, here's an example of a nurse-only visit. So if you have something that you've configured as a protocol for your nurse-only visits, again, you can find that immunization component and add a series of vaccines that you might be giving during that during a standard nurse-only visit. Here we've got a couple of flus, HPV, Hep B, RSV, for example. Okay, I think that was just me pointing out the items there. All right, so after you have thought about which protocols you want to add your vaccines to, there's the other piece, which is adding them to your PCC inventory. And so after you add them to your inventory, as you're administering vaccines, it's deprecating from that lot. It's going to the immunization registry behind the scenes, which we'll talk about in our next session tomorrow, a little bit more in depth. Romney will be sharing that information. So it's important to add these to your inventory. And when we open up the lot manager tool, there's a place to go ahead and scan a new vaccine vial in, and it captures a bunch of information for you, so you don't have to type it in manually, which is why we're raffling off a scanner at the end of this course. How many of you guys have those vaccine scanner? Lots of you. Okay. Do you think it's more efficient when you're adding inventory? For sure, yeah. Now, when you're administering, I don't know if it's that much easier for you. Right, people are shaking their heads. Right. Sometimes it's a pain because you have to plug it into the laptop or pair it up if it's a Bluetooth. So it does come in more handy when you're adding inventory. All right, and we like the word automatically here at PCC. We make up words. So scanning automatically brings in the immunization, manufacturer, NDC number, not the NDC number that Brian referred to in the billing section, but the other NDC number. CVX and MVX codes, lot number, and expiration date. We'll see that on the next screen. Okay, so in your vaccine lot manager in the tools menu, it's kind of halfway down the screen there, you'll go into that section. And here's what it looks like when you have inventory already there. So you can see you've got a series of vaccines there with all the information. And then at the bottom, you can either click add to manually add the vaccine if you don't have a scanner, and you just have to type in the information basically. So you'll want to use that scan button if you have a scanner. And here's all the information it'll capture for you. So as you're scanning the vaccine, it's going to fill in all of those fields in red, in the red box for you. And then you will have to identify a funding source, as well as add the quantity that you're receiving at this point. So it does default to the adjustment reason of increase shipment received, but there's a whole host of other reasons that you can choose from. So if something is damaged or something is lost, or lots of different reasons in that adjustment reason box. But when you're adding new inventory, it's going to show you the increase shipment received. And you just have to type in your quantity there. Okay, so there's just an example of having to choose your funding source here, depending on if this is a VFC or non-VFC. And here we've got 50 new doses of this particular vaccine. We've made them available. Now you can add inventory for vaccines and make them reserved. So if you wanted to add multiple lot numbers, you can add one for available, and that way when you're going to administer a vaccine during a visit, it'll be available. But if you want to just save them for later, when you deplete a lot, you can mark them as reserved, and you won't be able to order from that lot until you make it available. Okay. I think it's you now, Jim. So I'm going to pass the torch.
All right. Just a word about that reserved piece. If you only give permission to one person in the office to do that and they go on vacation, just putting it out there, you know, just an idea, okay? So reporting, high level, you know, what's in your fridge, who gave it, who got it, right? So here on this slide, I'm showing you what's in your fridge. So the vaccine inventory reconciliation worksheet, hopefully you guys are all familiar with this. Hopefully if you guys are the ones counting it, my little tidbit for you when you're doing this is customize it. And I have an example over here. It's showing you all your lots, the lot number, expiration dates available, because I said I want the status to show me what's available and what's reserved, all my funding sources, and my lot location. If you guys are the boss and you're having somebody else count it, I highly recommend customizing this and getting rid of the expected inventory, because you know how your staff is. Just like, I won't say I was that way once, but you know, we all want the shortest route to getting our paycheck, and if I see that there's 10 in there, I'm just gonna write in the next column, there's 10 in the fridge. So I highly recommend, like I said, customizing this, get rid of that expected inventory column, hand the person the sheet, and say, please go count in the fridge. When's the best time to count what's in the fridge? That's what you got to think. Are we doing it at the beginning of the day? Are we doing it at the end of the day? Are you doing it on Monday? Are you doing it on Wednesdays? Because we've always done it on Wednesdays. So you just got to think what works for you guys. But, that's just some quick tidbits for you guys of what's there. Oh, look at this. I love Minions, by the way. So commercial break. That means I want you guys all get on your feet, do jumping jacks. No, I'm just kidding. Just a little tidbit for you guys. Is your fridge your freezer? Is it a hero or a villain? How long have you guys had your fridge and your freezer in your office? Because we've heard a lot lately that, oh my goodness, something happened, okay? So be proactive. Are you using a vaccine fridge, or did you get the Danby model from Costco because it was $99 and it was on sale? So, do you have the water bottles in there? That's always the old VFC rule, but you're like, hey, Jim, we don't do VFC. I don't care. Well, guess what? VFC studied it. The AEP has studied it. Water bottles are your best friend, right? So if you don't have water bottles in your fridge, I highly recommend putting water bottles in your fridge. It just helps you guys out that much more. And then the temperature probes. Are they in date and are they working? And the key is also, have you installed them correctly? Because if we have vaccine fridges, they make these cool ports for us to put the cords through so it doesn't go through the door seal. If you get the one at Costco, is there even Sears anymore? I even think I'm dating myself. Or how about Montgomery Wards? Who remembers those, right? So if you're doing the store model, and bless your heart, it's not wrong, but you need something that's viable. Where are you putting those cords? Because you know what, that's an air leak if it's not in an approved place for your temperature probes, just as a friendly reminder, okay? And of course, when you say like being a firefighter, being emergency response, what do we say every 6 months when you change the clocks, change your batteries and your smoke detectors? Do that with your temperature probes. It's not gonna hurt you, okay? So if you guys know you have 3 temperature probes and they take AAA batteries and you say, you know what, time change is coming up next week, I need 8 batteries. Make it happen, okay? Just get your guys self into a mode. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Who's the superhero? Now this is live data. Of course, we wiped everything out. So where you see my arrows, there would actually be patient names there, PCC numbers, their date of birth. It gives you the sex and what they got, and then it gives you the administered by. Now, this also helps you out. You can see their VFC eligibility status, what was it state funded, was it private funded, their insurance at the time. It's gonna help you out because what do we always do? Sometimes we accidentally grab from the wrong fridge. So this just, your immunization administration details report helps you to say, who did this? And we hear all the time, well, Jim, if I give 10 in the box and it gets to 0, why does it let me keep going? That's true. But I can tell you, edge case many times, your IPV is in a 10-dose, multi-dose vial, sometimes your flus. If you put down 10 doses, that IPV, every now and then I could sneak an extra 11 or 12 out of there. You never know, right? Flu. It used to be in the day, you couldn't let it go to 0 because 0.5 was ages 3 and up, 3 and below was 0.25. So did you have 10 in the vial or did you have 20? So that's some of the reasoning why when it goes to 0, we don't just let it be done, right? Okay. So this report's very handy for you guys. I hate to say it because it's like the negative thing, but I call this the blame game. Because when you're down, and you hate to do it to your coworkers, like, oh, way to go, Jim, you made us go into the negative. How do you fix it? Well, you make me, because I was the one that did it, go in there and actually update it to the right lot, and it'll take it back out of the -1, back to a 0, and then you give the right lot number, and it'll take it away from the right, correct lot number. And then that person that's on vacation that can take it out of reserve, and you're like, oh, you deplete that lot and be done with it. Is that pretty simple, you think? I mean, we're supposed to be high level. Is there any other reports that like I said, customization is really good for you guys. We have a lot of multi-locations in here. you can customize one. So if you think you need to run this once a week, I really don't think you do. I think this one's more apt to when you're running into issues. When you do your first count and you say we're off, come to this one and it'll help you figure out. Like I said, you hate to say blame game, but it's going to help you find out where we went wrong and why. And let's see. Are we here already? You want me to back up one? All right, go slower. This slide is, no, I'm just kidding. No. All right. So everybody's been scanned in. I'll go to the next slide. I'll do this. Sorry. This one was short, you guys. You got lucky. At the end of the day, usually people don't pack the house like this. We only got seats in the front. I'm really excited. Our session takeaways, factors to consider when your practice receives a new vaccine. Do you guys work together? Does one person always do it? Like I said, always have a backup person. It's always really good to have a backup person. Because, I know we're small, and, I'm the best guy at PCC, I can tell you that. And then everybody that's watching this right now is going to say 115 others, because there's 116 of us now are going to argue that point. But you know what? We all work together as a team. Number 2 is the advantages of using a scanner to manage the vaccine inventory. I think it is key. Like we heard earlier, it is hard to unplug from the laptop and hand it off, sure, but use it for inventory, because is that a 1, is that an I, is that a 0, or is it an O? If you can just scan it and go, it's going to help you guys out that much more. Do you use capital letters and, like when you're, the HIBs, that you got the capital U. Is that a U1? Is it a UI? Is it a UL? Is it, there's so many different variables. So the scanner can help you guys out when you're doing that. And if you're like me and you're old, and now you have to put glasses on to read the dang lot numbers, right? And when to call PCC when vaccines are involved, don't hesitate to call. We're always there. You can't be like, oh my God, we did this class last week. I'm going to feel like, we're not allowed to say this because we're video streaming it, so let me cover it up, right? No, call us, okay? It's not wrong. We're here to help you. Like we say, please don't go on TED Table 2. That's okay. Call us. It doesn't bother us, okay? We're here to help you. You're here because of us, or we're here because of you. I don't know how that goes, but that's our takeaways. So let's see, who wants to raffle off a scanner? Well, you guys, like everybody, you in the back, stand up, you're sleeping. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah. All right, so we got this. This is how I know my younger cohorts, love to play games, because wait till you see how we're going to do this. It's actually pretty exciting. All right. And then we'll take questions after we raffle this off, okay? Here you go, young man.
Thank you.
All right. And we have free samples of vaccines if anybody wants it. Okay, all right, so here we go.
Well, we figured it'd be kind of boring to just put names in some online website and then it just pops a name out. So yeah, look for your marble. This is a little marble race game, and if your marble comes in first, you win the vaccine scanner.
I'm going to count down like 10.
No, it just goes.
That was just to help you know when you get to 0, you deplete the lock.
I'm going to try to guide this so we can at least watch the race a little better. So we're going down. Oh yeah, this isn't just the toilet bowl. This keeps going.
It's like Mousetrap. Anybody remember that game?
All right, people are coming out. Uh-oh, we've lost one. Yeah.
Oh, she came in late, so we had Jack. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, we have people going straight down.
This is what we do all day.
Yeah.
If anybody, by the way, well, this race or after the race, has any questions about the reports or the billing side, you know how it seems sort of separated.
Oh,
between
don't celebrate yet. You got to get out.
speakers, so, how it seems so separated. But
You can talk to the mic right there.
Christy Howell, you have one.
All right. Call me next week, we'll set it up. No, I'm just kidding. No. All right, guys, if you have questions, if you want
Yeah.
to come up to the mic, you can come up so that the people at home can hear this as well.
Well, let me ask this first.
Jim, yeah, give her the microphone if you can, so that the people who are streaming this can hear.
I don't know if these questions are appropriate to ask here. I was going to take them to the wishing well, but they are all vaccine related. So I didn't know if all the people that needed to hear this were in here.
Let's find out. Okay, go ahead. Go for your question.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have a whole bunch, but the biggest one I was wondering is whether or not we can have parameters set for vaccines and ages. So I don't want providers to be able to order HPV for a 9-month-old. That is one, but the bigger one is COVID. Because we have 3 doses in COVID, if I have a provider going to order COVID for a 6-month-old, they shouldn't have the option to choose kid COVID or adult COVID.
That would be, okay.
Yeah. No, I understand your question. I think that the only way to kind of mitigate that situation is, like I said earlier, to kind of configure those protocols by age and put in the appropriate vaccines. But the thing is, behind the scenes, if we make a vaccine orderable, it's orderable. There's no restriction. We make it orderable or not orderable. And so that helps by putting it in their appropriate age protocol. However, it doesn't prevent from searching and choosing an order, a vaccine that's orderable.
Right, I just wish there was
Yeah, so that's
they
like
wouldn't allow it.
Right, you would like
know.
that as a enhancement, right, for the wishing well? Is that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
The other enhancement, which you guys were all here, you had it up on the screen, is in the vaccine lot manager. You know how you can narrow your search by vaccine, by the location, if you have multiple locations, or by whether it's reserved.
The filters at the bottom,
Well, you don't
yep.
have that option, and that's the option that I was wondering. So down at the bottom, there
the
are those
filters.
3 options. Can we get one that says private or VFC?
So by funding
Because
source too.
The only way
Yeah.
that I can just, at a glance, look at VFC in one particular location is to run a report. I can't do it live. I mean, I can do it live, I suppose, because the report is live. But when I'm in there, I can't look at it and go, oh, I have 15 doses at my Southfield location. I know that I can, if I have a whole bunch listed, I can click on that and it puts private first and then VFC second.
That's what I was about to say.
But
We can
it's
do that for all
still,
those columns, yeah.
it's just, I just was hoping we could maybe have an enhancement where we can separate the two. And then, I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but we have a bug in our HPV, our overdue HPV, where I have to give the numbers to people, but I have to comb through it first because a lot of patients are being counted twice. Where they're in there twice, so I have to put them all in Excel and then break them down by their name and take out duplicates in order to get a true number.
Kids that are
Yeah.
Yes. So the number isn't accurate when that report pulls. You have to go through it to make sure that there's no duplicates.
Which report specifically was that?
Overdue 13-year-olds, it's already pre-built.
Oh,
The overdue HPV 13-year-olds.
it's a known bug? We'll make note of it, but
We'll make note, because I think with the ICE, we updated the dashboard, but now we need to update the report in the background of that. We can ask Tim.
And then I also wondered, another thing that happens to us, but it's very easy to catch on the reports you were saying, was when somebody doesn't drop funding at all. I was wondering if things can be grayed out until funding is dropped. Like you can't scan until you drop that funding. That way that mistake never ever happens.
Are you talking about the allotment, the vaccine lot manager, or the?
Well,
or-
even if you click on the little bubble, you can, like, you know, if you're in just the home screen and you can see all the people that are there, and you have somebody, you know, that the provider orders vaccines for, you can click on the bubble, and then you can scan and do it and administer without the funding even being dropped.
So make it required.
They have to choose that funding in order to scan.
Yeah, I get it now too.
So it would prevent that accident from happening, because at least in Michigan, if you don't drop the funding, maybe it's in all states, Romney, you would know this, but if you don't drop the funding, it doesn't go over to MICR.
Right,
Now,
if you have the funding, this funding source has to, is associated with the lot itself. So as long as the lot has the funding source, but when you have
up
to
above it,
up above.
where you can see what insurance they have. The eligibility.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes.
If you leave eligibility blank, you can still order a vaccine and administer a vaccine.
And then it
Yes.
doesn't transfer to MICR. Now, we find the mistake when we go to balance,
Right.
but I didn't know if enough people had that, where,
So like state to state, there are different requirements. So some states, you know, you don't have to even indicate the eligibility if you don't participate with VFC, for example. But some states like Michigan, you have to indicate eligibility straight across the board. The report that Jim was showing, I use a lot when I'm onboarding people for immunizations as well, and I modify it quite a bit as well, because you can also, you know, I recommend people running it, depending on when they send their immunizations, running it every day, just to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Also, that report has had some changes in this past year. You can also run a report on refused immunizations and contraindicated, and it will show you the reasons. And, you know, I don't know if any of you have experienced refused vaccines that didn't have a refusal reason, causing havoc in the registry.
Yes.
Now you can set up the report to catch that. Also, with the more strict requirements for like a certain threshold of race and ethnicity being indicated in the demographics for patients, that report also, you can add that as well. And if you have any questions about like modifying reports or adding separate versions of that very same report, now that we have refusal reasons and historical versus administered and stuff like that, we can work with you. I have had some practices where I've set that report up 3 different ways just to catch those things. So that report is a very useful report. It's
yeah, when you're
extremely-
off, that's the first report I go
Yeah.
to. Yeah. The only other thing is, this is more of a safety thing, because my background is nursing, and so it was always safety, safety, safety. I wish that there was a way that providers could almost get a pop-up if they go to order, like, if the child's gotten 2 doses of Pfizer, and they try to order Moderna.
COVID.
Or COVID.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Pfizer, but
Pfizer brand,
they knew what I was talking about. That if Moderna, they try to order Moderna, it wouldn't allow them to. 5 and under, of course, we know that the CDC hasn't given us the go-ahead to use both kinds. But what we do, like I have a vaccine team, and we end up having to go through hundreds of charts to double check that they were scheduled correctly. And the only way to see, what they were given before is to go to the immunization history, which it's just a lot of work to go see, is this the correct vaccine? Because we leave it up to the front desk, right, to schedule that correctly, but that doesn't always mean that that's what happens. And sometimes the parents say, oh no, we got Pfizer, but they didn't, they got Moderna. And maybe it's their second dose, so they really do need to do Moderna, and it's not just a booster. So we've had accidents or mistakes with that, ordering the wrong one. So I didn't know if that was and that would also help with Men B, if you have patients coming in that got Bexsero before and they can't get Trememba, but there's nothing to stop anybody from doing that.
Yeah, and the forecaster, and you may be
gonna say
using the
that.
forecaster, I believe, but that it's not the end-all be-all.
Right.
That's just for assistance in determining what's due. And though it has been more up to date in this past year than in previous years, with all the stuff, the work going on with COVID, it's still, an advisory thing. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is at with the COVID, with the Moderna Pfizer situation. But, I'll write that down as an enhancement request. I don't know where that would fit in because, let me just take some notes on that. Also, the wishing well, if you could,
I'll go to the
I'm
wishing
actually going to
well.
be going down to the wishing well after this, so if you can come down to the wishing well and
Okay.
add the same stuff that you've talked about, just to make
And
sure.
I
we
have
got it right.
others, but they're not related to like everybody.
Okay, thanks.
This is just a quick mention that I've mentioned before, but the meningitis B is still not showing up in immunization predictor if they've gotten 0 doses. It's only showing up there if they've gotten 1 dose. And then the COVID vaccine predictors are still all over the place with not entirely correct recommendations. Like you have people fully vaccinated and they're still saying they need another dose, especially for the younger kids.
Is that true also with the ICE that we're using now in the last year? Is it?
Well, for
This-
meningococcal B it is.
Oh, it is,
because-
okay.
Because there was a reason for this, for the 0 dose. But once you have 1 dose, then it
Well,
will,
for the 0 dose, it really should just be, like, how sometimes you can say, there's the black where they can get it, but it's not necessarily recommended yet, or.
Yeah.
So it should be black. It shouldn't be non-existent at all.
yes, I hear what you're saying. We also don't even forecast, for example, HPV until they're a certain age. And so there's a couple of those vaccines that get excluded from that forecaster until a certain criteria happens. HPV is age-related. Meningococcal B it requires a first dose for the rest to be. And I don't have the exact reasoning for the meningococcal B. There's a specific reason, though. So I'll try to get that out there to you. Because there's one specific reason, I can't remember what it was.
I'm going to put that in my presentation tomorrow too, because I didn't know that.
Right,
The
they
forecaster.
get that second MMR, after, a month after they get their first MMR, but it's still predicting it for those who may, it's not green, it's black. It's not green, it's black. But so it should be the same with Men B.
We have a couple of questions from virtual attendees. The first one is from Raylene. She says, her question might be for the wishing well, but when a vaccine in the inventory goes to 0, could it switch to inactive?
That's remember I talked about it? Because I talked about it, because remember, sometimes with these multi-dose vials, we don't let it go to 0 to inactive because you can still get some out of the vials. That was the reasoning we did that. Like flu used to be 0.5 or 0.25, so is it 10 in the vial or is it 20? We don't, you're right, so we can add that enhancement.
Okay. The second question from another virtual attendee, this is from Samantha. Where does it need to be entered to indicate refused vaccines?
So if someone refused a vaccine during the ordering and administering process when you're in the visit, there is a refuse button that you can click on, and it will put refused in red all caps on the chart in the immunization section. It should be on the screen, yeah, somewhere.
Do we have a picture of that?
It might be in the second session that we're doing tomorrow, actually.
Right, but you guys, when the doctors order it, and you guys, where you go to hit administer, right up in the top right there, there's a refused, contraindicated, or canceled. I highly recommend using those. Don't cancel it. Make it refused.
Oh, also,
That's right, and choose a reason.
A reason,
Right.
yes. The registries want a reason.
Okay, then can we have other as a contraindication? Because there are sometimes other reasons that aren't part of the drop-down.
yeah.
Let us know so we can add to the list, onto the wishing well.
Yeah, that list is a specific list, that's not a list that we invented, but having other is something
At
that,
least then we could pick it and
yeah,
then
yeah.
notate somewhere.
And I think for contraindicated, no, I could be wrong, I might be making something up here, so never mind. But I'll make a note on that. And for refusal reason, you can do other as well, and then put a note on it. But,
I think refusal does have other.
yeah,
Contraindicated.
does
Does
not,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if this question will be for the wishing well, but configuration, I'm from Georgia, so we have the grid system. And our vaccines are not transmitting over to the grid system. We're actually having to input them into the system rather than them just transpiring from grids to PCC. Is there something on our end that we need to do?
What practice are you from?
Children First Pediatrics.
We should talk.
Yes, we should talk, 'cause
Okay.
that should be happening in the
It's
background.
not.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
it definitely should be, so.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking, so that you all can help us do
Yes,
that, because I'm
we will
having to
help
put
you.
them in myself, so.
Oh, yes, definitely, we'll work with you.
What? Who? You, what?
I was just gonna ask her off of her question. Are y'all going and checking the next day? I think the default transfer over to the Georgia immunization system is 24 hours.
That's a good
So
point.
we had to call and have somebody lower our time that it went over to 5 minutes, but that was like the lowest that they could do it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there will be in the open lab a specific walk-in clinic for vaccines tomorrow. Okay. So if you have time, stop by there, or if you see me wandering around, just grab me.
Now
have another
people are saying
question.
they lost their marbles. What? No, I'm just kidding. Hold on.
This is another safety question that I was just going to ask, if it's easy to put in to the vaccine thing when you scan and it shows you all the data for the vaccine, or I was asking anybody in this room what they do. So with COVID Pfizer, when it gets delivered to you, you only have 10 weeks to use it unless you have an ultra cold freezer. So the expiration date that has to go into the computer has to be the true expiration date that's on the box. But that isn't the true expiration date for each particular clinic, right? And so is there a way that where, you know how we scan it in and we've got all those options, we could have a box that doesn't transfer, but that box tells us when the true expiration date is for that particular vaccine. Does that make sense? Like a use by date, but it would have nothing to do with transferring to MIC or transferring to our state record or anything. It would be more in-house safety. It's one of my worst nightmares, is that I'm going to give a vaccine. We all know it probably isn't expired, but they don't have the data to back it up, and then what do? You gotta call a parent and tell them you gave them, their child an expired vaccine, and that's what we do, but there's still it's not in the computer, so it just.
So I have a question, and how do you handle your multi-dose vials then? Because that's the challenge there, if you do that.
So you're talking about baby, because that's the only one.
Not even COVID, just in general, like a multi-dose vial, you have like.
The only,
Like that.
yeah,
You open it, once you open it, then you have 30 days.
yeah.
We put in this date in the expiration, we free text it or whatever, and you have to be on top of it.
So the only multi-dose vial, we only have two. One is IPV, and we control that with, it's usually a 10-dose vial, and we put stickers on the outside, and we have to peel a sticker off each time we use a dose. But the only,
In the lot manager,
we do enter it as 10.
and you enter the date, expiration date.
Well, IPV lasts. The only thing that's 30 days is TB. So TB is the 30-day one, and we also put a sticker on the outside of that says when it was opened and then when it expires.
So that when you use, and then you don't use the scanner, but if you use the scanner,
We do.
it would populate the date on the box.
Right, just like
Yes.
COVID, it gives you the day on the box, it doesn't give you the actual safety date.
Yes, but the polio you use until that date, even once it's opened. So the only one that has that 30-day is TB. But we don't use multi-dose vials for like flu or anything else, so I'm not up to date on any of those other ones.
All right, anybody else want to sing karaoke? What? What? I know, well, she shows us up every time. Sure.
What scanner is everybody using?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
So we went down to Walmart and we took, no, I'm just kidding. No.
We've definitely had issues with some scanners, and I don't know, the one that we raffled off today
Yeah, what is the name we raffled
is
off?
a recommended scanner for sure. But there are several.
Jim is cool. Oh, wait, no. What? Says Reelin.
Does it have a cord or is it Bluetooth?
It's both, actually. So you can choose. I'll bring it back, I promise.
I have a vaccine scanner question. For those of you that use the scanner to scan each vial prior to administration, do you find that it helps you have less counting mistakes at the end of the week? And do you do your counts less often when you do that or not? Because we tried it in the past and the nurses hated it. I'm wondering if it was really just the nurses, and we need to try it again.
So you do it both. You scan it coming into inventory and also scanning when they give it. Okay.
How often do you count? How often were you doing it before?
And finding mistakes weekly. It also helps keep that BOC in private. I feel like it's another double check whenever they're scanning, because it's gonna pull, you have to select that eligibility then. And so we have to double check to make sure that eligibility is.
Yeah, I was going to hold it up to the camera.
Did we determine what brand it is, Jim?
Yeah,
Or
we did.
model?
It's, hey, Mr. Live Streamer, how close can I get to the camera so they can see it at home?
We have a question in the back too, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to read this off very quickly. It is the Reelin, RELINN barcode scanner, item number RL6200W. So we have that on a recording so people can go back to that and find it.
Someone
Yep.
had their hand up in the back, Jim.
Yep, W for winner. Woohoo! No.
So of those practices who are using the scanners for their vaccine inventory, do y'all have both Merck and GSK vaccines? Yes. Does yours, and Pfizer and Sanofi, okay. Does y'all's scanner scan every one of those QR codes? Because there's. No. Okay. The scanner, we tried 3 or 4 different scanners. And I haven't even attempted to use a scanner in so long now, but I'm almost certain it was the GSK vaccines, right? One of the two, the QR codes will not scan.
Yeah, I was going to say the HIB from Sanofi Pasteur, that's right, Sanofi Pasteur, because you got to look at that. When you guys get the scanners, there's a book in there, and there's the 2D. Sometimes you have to click on that, but there's black on white and white on black. We know CDC has a standard that the manufacturers are supposed to follow, and as you guys are saying, we know they don't follow it, right? So we can only be as good as, there was a seasonal flu a couple of years ago that wouldn't scan. You know, we can only be as good as what they give us, right? So
And-
we have about 8 minutes left. If there's any other questions, last minute. Oh,
Kind of sort of answering Eliza's question as far as with scanning with giving the vaccines. We do, or at least I try to get everybody to, but they don't always do that. But it also saves on, because if you're doing a drop-down box for clicking your lot numbers, if there's 2 or 3 options there in that drop-down box, then the wrong lot number is clicked on, so then your inventory is off, because
If you have the same lot number for both VFC and private,
when you scan the vial, if you're scanning for the VFC, but you have a private vaccine, it's going to tell you that this lot number is not listed as VFC, because you've pulled private and not VFC, and vice versa.
and what if you have a borrowed vaccine? Like, for example, you have borrowed from one to the other, and now you're scanning back in a borrowed, so say it's a lot number that's supposedly private, but it's
It's
truly.
going to a state.
Yes.
Then I go in and I decrease it from private, and I put a note in there, giving, first aid, and then I scan it in and label it as VFC.
I'm gonna have one little weird nerdy moment here. A note with the QR codes that are on your vaccine boxes. It's a really weird workaround, but if you happen to have a large shipment and you want to start scanning those in, if they're the same lot number, same information, you're just trying to scan boxes, if you scan like a barcode of a vaccine that works, and let's say you just go into like Windows Notepad and you scan it, you're going to see a bunch of output. It's going to have information there. You can actually take that and put it into like a QR generator and then work on the other one. I know it's really weird, really crazy workaround, but if you're trying to just do stuff en masse, you actually can just print out your own QR codes to help with like a really large shipment. If it's just 1 or 2 boxes, it's probably not worth the effort. But if you have a ton of boxes that you're trying to scan,
Seasonal flu, you guys get
Yeah.
100 boxes at a time.
yeah. So if there is trouble with scanning, you actually can make your own QR code that you scan in. But again, weird workaround for it, but it may just save a little bit of time. And we are at 10 minutes remaining. Do we have any
10,
final?
I thought he
any-
said 8. My watch is 5 minutes
I think we have-
fast. Sorry, guys.
I think we have
you know.
5. I think we have 5 minutes remaining, actually.
Read it, actually.
Yeah. Do we have any final questions before we wrap up? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Appreciate all the questions.